Hello, this is Duncan Nisbet, the roving reporter for Let's Test, again with Rob Sabourin. Hi Rob, how you doing?
Excellent. How are you doing today?
Yeah, very good, very good.
All
Glad to be
right.
back in the UK. Yeah, where are you today then?
I'm actually home in Roxborough, Quebec, Canada. I just came back from a week in Boston, and I'm going to be going to Toronto, then San Diego in the next few days. So I'm
Wow,
I'm rocking and busy, but I'm here for a couple of days.
fantastic. I'm glad I caught you then.
Yeah, you caught me at home. Well, you can catch me anytime, anywhere. You know that.
Yeah, the power of the internet.
The,
Wicked.
the
So,
power of the Webernet. Yeah, it's good. It's good.
it's all good.
It works.
So what's been keeping Rob busy then?
Well, I've been catching up on my reading, so I just got ahead on this new one that I just picked up here. A book called, I don't know if you can read it, Digital Computer Programming by
Yeah,
McCracken. This book was written in 1957 and is the first actual book that has a chapter that talks about testing. And I've been reading it meticulously, going through all these beautiful, beautiful old notions of what was going on in the minds of people when they were talking about testing software back in 1957. And this is to prepare for some, wild new stuff I'm working on this year. Starting articles like "Where were you in '82" and all this old time testing. How did we test with an old hand crank and stuff like that?
that's it. How did you test before Agile? God,
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, we call it rigid testing. Not agile testing.
that's it. Yeah, that's it.
So
Stretch.
I'm having all sorts of fun. I'm spending a lot of time working on updating and developing new training material, and I'm doing everything from Lego robots to usability testing and everything in between. Lots of exciting stuff. Really having a good time.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
But
always trying to raise the bar, as they say. That's what I'm doing. Raising the bar.
for you or for testers in general?
Well, for me and for Test in general, and for the people who we're trying to attract to Let's Test 2014,
That's it. Spot on.
where I'm going to be doing a tutorial called Testing Fundamentals for Expert Testers. And one of the reasons why I want to get back to the roots is to basically wake people up and show them how, with just a few fundamental concepts, you can kick ass testing. So get
Perfect.
ready for that.
And which will just take to the core of testing as well, I guess, away from any kind
Oh,
of buzzword that we might be floating around in today.
well, there's always a buzzword, and there's always a need for a buzzword. There's, like, for example, today, what's the buzzword? Clouds. Everyone's talking about clouds. I look out the window, clouds.
Yeah,
They're everywhere. They're
that's it.
everywhere.
There's my
Except
Amazon purchase floating by.
there you go. They're boom, boom, floating by. And, it's all buzzword stuff. But the fact is that there are certain risks for the type of infrastructure that are using the cloud-based technologies that were always there, but now they're exacerbated and changed. And the focus of testing based on what can break changes, all sorts of different things that are buzzword compliant. But then again, there's also what I see as a lot of opportunistic firms, consultants, tool vendors that are sort of saying, "Hey, we have the cloud stuff." It's
Yep.
so yeah, there's a need for it, but we got to be cautious.
I say that second part what you spoke of there is what I've seen is just a tool to sell something. So I could be a coach and yeah, I can coach, but as soon as I stick agile in front of it, I'm a whole lot more marketable because everyone just wants to jump on that buzzword.
It's funny, as a management consultant in software engineering, I sometimes look back at how did I frame my business. And when I was asked, what are you? I said, well, I am a software engineer. And what do you do? I do management consulting. And those two simple things cover everything that I've done in my private business since 2000 or 1999, actually. And, and yet I know other people that have rebranded themselves as an agile consultant or a this or a that or a testing coach.
Yeah,
And I mean, yeah, I do that. I do.
as well.
I facilitate. I coach. Sure, we could put that word on it. It doesn't change the premise that I try to help people get things done.
Yeah, yeah.
If I now what attracts things to HR departments and stuff, maybe people want to buy a coach instead of a consultant. Maybe a coach is better than a consultant. The metaphor is nicer, but it's rebranding. It's all that type of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I'm juggling at the moment. Is just like coach and consultant. What's the difference? And you speak to different people. Like, oh, we want a consultant. I was like, well, what do you mean by consultant? And then they give me a description of consultant. I go, oh, well, I read that as a coach.
Well, it all comes down to, I guess, generalizations. Coaching, I always thought was something a consultant did. I think consultants can do a lot more than just coaching. Frankly, sometimes I design processes and I assess systems, try to find weaknesses, try to identify improvements. That's not coaching. That's looking at it from a distance, watching it,
Yeah.
and trying to see a pathway for it to evolve through. So as a consultant, I don't just do coaching. I do other stuff
Yeah.
too.
That's a nice way of thinking about it. Cheers, Rob. I'll take that away.
Well, it's just whatever it is today. If it's a coach today, it's going to be something else. Next month, it's going to be something else. There's going to be
Very,
a new word, a new word for it.
so you've got a full day tutorial, yeah? Let's test.
Yes, I've got a full day tutorial, and that's right, a full day tutorial. Most of the stuff is going to be related to test design, though. But I want to get down to the basics, some basic math, some basic organization, some basic risk analysis stuff. Some of the real fundamentals that I think people lose sight of. There's a lot of great experienced testers that do good work, and they're sort of, I think they lose sight of the fundamentals. And if you can take what you're doing, orthogonalize it, I say orthogonalize, break it into its constituent parts,
Yeah.
then maybe you can teach those constituent parts to others and apply your skills to other problem areas. And I try to encourage that type of thinking. It's funny because I want to reverse engineer some of the general systems thinking stuff that everybody's talking about in the context-driven community. Everyone is a big fan of Jerry Weinberg's
Yeah.
general systems approach. And of course, if you're not an engineer and you learn about that, you start saying, wow, everything is a system. and then you've got the beautiful system models. And I'm saying, yeah, but once in a while you want to decompose that, so break it down, and then you sort of break it down, build it up, break it down, build it up, and you get some interesting stuff. I don't know. I also know that there's a lot of people in our field who do great problem solving, but for the life of them, they couldn't describe what they're doing to others. And I want to show people the models that have been around in problem solving and the methods. Another thing you see a lot of people using is the term, I want to use what do you call it, Socratic method in teaching. I don't know if you ever heard that.
Yeah.
Well, most of the people who use that have no freaking clue what a Socratic method in teaching is. They know what they've seen, and not to critique anybody, but I've seen beautiful examples. James Bach is a beautiful example. He does beautiful Socratic dialogue with people in instructional contexts, and he helps people learn a lot.
Yeah.
But that's just James's application of it. In general, there's a lot more to it. And when you're teaching with a Socratic style, it's teaching to a goal. It's teaching to a goal. And what you're doing with questioning is helping to drive the person to the goal, to the discovery of the goal, or to the learning about the goal. And it's not just the incessant questioning of someone forever. Which unfortunately, I've seen people come out and say, yes, a great tester can test forever, but I think we've got to test to a purpose.
Yeah.
There's a point where you're going to get fired for just asking questions to someone. They're actually going to say someday, hey, test something. But why are we testing it? What's the context? What are the business factors? What's the technical risk? What has changed? Who's the programmer? What color is the sky? All of these things are great questions, but the Socratic method is not just, always follow a question with a question. It's drive the learning through questioning and direct it through questioning. So your questions expose new risks, reinforce other things, or show people contradictions or counterexamples to what they've done, and have them say their own counterexample. That's the awesome stuff when you can draw that by questioning.
So you get into
those are fundamentals. Those are examples of fundamentals.
Right. Okay. Fantastic. And so would you have some kind of key takeaways as well? So like it's one day of the tutorial, right? And if I was to come to Let's Test, that's one day gone on one tutorial. If there was a group of us going, would I be able to take stuff from your tutorial back into like a lunch and learn session back in my office?
Some of it would. The thing is that I hope that what people are going to learn is to, like I say, deconstruct some of the stuff they're already doing. So, for example, if you want to take problem solving, what I want to teach people is some basic stuff, like, for example, it's called the Polya model for problem solving, where a lot of people probably don't know what that is. It was in the 1930s. As a great mathematician figured out how to teach people some complex problem-solving skills. And it means like there's certain things like relating something to your past experience, drawing certain pictures, finding what's different, taking a common problem, solving it, then looking at what's different. And, there's variable identification, stuff like that,
Yep.
that people do intuitively or because they've practiced it a lot, that if they took a look at what they're doing from that perspective, it would be easier for them to teach it. And that's the skill transference issue. So I think that one of the takeaways is to be able to say, hey, I've got some strategies I can apply to transference of skills.
Okay.
That's one of them. Another one would be if someone is an experienced tester, and I don't know how many we're going to get at Let's Test. I hope we get these people, experienced testers who learned on the field without having ever studied math or computer science or anything like that. And what I hope to show them is some of the theory, for example, in discrete math. Behind what we're doing. For example, there's beautiful things in the world of logic that a lot of people use but aren't aware of.
Yep.
And if I can at least show them the sort of the basic, where can you find the math behind this? I don't want you to become an expert in the math. Be aware of the math and then draw to experts when you need it. Everyone doesn't have to be an expert, but I'd like you to identify the problem space and then be able to say, okay, well, here's this type of discrete math problem. And I'd like to sort of say, well, I should get someone who knows that type to help me out, and that's going to help me test better, design better tests, or whatever. So hopefully I can teach people who are experienced testers how to identify the sort of fundamental what area of science, what area of math, what area of something is that. And I don't know all of it myself. I just think like that myself. And I use, like, for me, my ignorance is my superpower, right? I don't pretend to know. I have no freaking clue. If I had a clue, I'd be biased and I'd screw up. I'd have a confirmation bias, and I would, as would most of us that I know. So by not having that bias, I can really do a lot better testing. But that's another issue, another day. The problem with Let's Test, though, if I can get broader, there's a lot of these tutorials to come to, and they're all excellent. We have, I think, 6 of them or 7 of them that first day.
Yeah.
And they're all pretty good. Pretty good. I know firsthand. I know a couple of them, but when we took a look at the program, we're trying to, as some of your questions were asked about how we put together the program, we're trying to get people to come and cross the line, move up the bar. We want to sort of see people take their game to the next level, and you have to try that out without fear. Without fear. I don't want people to come to Let's Test, and I've been doing this talk for 80 years, so I'm going to go do the talk again. I want you to come to Let's Test and do something new, do something that you're raising the bar, you're doing something further than before. And this is what when I've talked to the different people, Pradeep and James in the early days, and that stuff is, I think, is going to be awesome. It's going to be using their exploratory methods to dive into things like static objects and stuff like that, like requirements and it's just, I think it's brilliant. I think it's exactly what people need to learn about, and it's just not what you see every day.
No.
That's not the normal tutorial you're going to see from these guys. So that's and really, I think we're really raising the bar with this type of stuff. I think that's great. I think we're looking at a couple more like that I know a lot about. John Box, I think, is on there. Let me just open up the program.
John Box doing a full day.
And he's doing something that's a little bit untypical for him. What is it? John Bach is... John Bach... No, best practices. Yeah. Best practices. There's all these people. You got a room of 200 people saying there are no best practices. And there's John saying, okay, let's take a look at what people call best practices and what does it all mean. So that's pretty cool stuff. I think that's excellent. So we got John doing stuff that's out of his... it's in his expertise, but out of his normal space, right? This is not how to do session-based exploratory testing. James and Pradeep talking about specifications by testing the product. So analyzing a specification by testing the product is awesome. Like, this is different perspectives.
Yeah.
Very different perspectives. My thing, sit it on his ass, right? Look at the fundamentals for experts. There's some things that look a little bit more common that I don't know too much about, but all of the proposals have some element that we think is going to drive it to sort of, you know what I mean, to cross the line, raise the bar a teeny bit.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many tracks to choose from, isn't there? It's just like,
It's a really beautiful selection, and this is it's going to be hard for people to choose. But if you have multiple people going, I'd split them across 2 or 3 sessions.
Yeah.
And also, I would also not be worried if I went to a session and after the first half hour you say, well, I love this guy, but that topic is not for me, and flip to another one. I hope that's allowed. At Let's Test, I think we're pretty liberal about this type of stuff. Don't waste your time spending a day just because, for example, let's say you know Rob and you come and you listen to me, and after hearing me ramble about discrete math for 30 minutes, you want to say, well, that's good, Rob, but I don't give a darn about discrete math. And I'll say, well, good, at least you tried, and move on. Go see someone else.
Yeah.
There's other stuff going on. I'm also curious, very, very curious about some of the half-day ones. Like, for example, the one here on Games and Puzzles Master Class.
Yeah.
This is interesting. And one of my big questions is, how do you apply the skills from these games in the real world? And what examples do we have of that? And I'm hoping that, although I'm not going to be able to attend that, I'm hoping that they jump into that. In fact, after hours, that's going to be one of my big questions to them.
Well, yeah, because I'm sure there'll be some games and puzzles going on in the evening as well, wouldn't there?
There's all sorts of cool stuff, man. And there's an undocumented surprise cool thing going to happen. It's not written down there, so you heard it first from me. Let me just get it for you here. And I hope we can pull this off, because this is going to be really fun. Hang on.
Am I allowed
It's
to
on
put this on the video or not? Is this an
Yeah,
exclusive?
you can put it on the video, but I just can't commit to it because it could get canceled. It's out of my control, the cancellation of it. But let me just tell you what we're shooting for here.
Okay.
So I got to just jump in there and jump onto the calendar. So what we're doing is I'm teaching a live virtual course on generating great testing ideas. So I'm teaching this course while I'm there. So generating great test ideas, live virtual, 3 hours on the 27th and 3 hours of the 28th of May. This is going to be broadcast worldwide. It's a course that people are paying to attend, that I will be broadcasting it from Let's Test, and we're going to let people who are at Let's Test audit it, participate in it for free in the thing. And if you're interested in this stuff, this is one of those live virtual courses that SQE sells.
Okay.
So I'm not trying to compete with them, but what we're doing is we're going to be doing it from one of the conference rooms after hours on the 27th and 28th in the evening. I don't remember the exact time. It's going to be definitely after conference hours.
Okay. Oh, that's amazing. I'll put that there. We'll advertise that one out.
That's going to be 6 hours. So that's a lot of live virtual instruction, if you're into that type of thing. Not everybody is, by the way. That's a type of instruction that mostly it's for people who are sort of buying online webinar type of stuff. So I prefer the in-person, touch and feel type of stuff. But this is something I don't think it's officially on the program because, of course, we need to have enough paid subscribers for it to run. So So I'm not doing the direct marketing of it. I'm the content owner of it, if you will. So that's the 27th and 8th in the evening. We're hoping to put that on.
Fantastic.
You were asking in your questions about what have we been doing since we put together the program?
Well, there's also a discussion about the program as well. Like how did you bring the program together to get all these people under one roof for one week?
Well, it's tough, and I tell you, I've had to answer that question an awful lot, and it's a hard job. Why I answer the question is because people like yourself, for example, you made a proposal to this conference, didn't you?
I did, yep.
And was it accepted?
Unfortunately not, no.
Right. You see, a lot of people like you made excellent proposals and didn't make it. Now, there's a lot of people who wanted to talk at the conference, and there was a very limited number of people that we accepted. The path was this: first, we did the tutorials and the tutorials by invitation, and then we did tutorials from people who suggested tutorials. We filled it with that list. Those people then we asked, since they were coming, them to do a session talk as well. And what was left, whatever was left, there might have been 15 or 20 slots. Then we took those by doing objective assessments. There's 3 perspectives we looked at from every single one, from the 3 people involved in this. We basically looked at 3 factors. The first was experiential. We wanted to make first experience. The second one was on topic or on theme or advancing the theme. And the third one was wow. So we took those 3 factors from 3 people and then combined them and had to make the very, very tough call of who to accept. And it was really hard.
I bet it was.
And this Let's Test is one of the hardest ones in the world to do, I think, because you get such creative ideas from people. And I just wish that we could accept everybody.
Right, we're off again. Okay,
So
yes.
just ask a question.
Okay, where were we?
I was talking about the program, and I said that we selected people by looking at the 3 factors.
That's it. And the third, you broke up at the third one, which was wow. And then you took the 3 factors from 3 individuals.
Right, and then so after that, we basically selected the people to fill the slots we had remaining, and had to send a lot of no thank you notes to a lot of great speakers. I wish we had more slots, more capacity, more bandwidth, but there's the constraints based on the physical maximum number of people can have talking at the same time,
Yep.
and the budgets of the organization. Let's Test is quite liberal in terms of helping to offset some of the costs for speakers as opposed to other conferences. So, for example, STAR in the States, I believe Eurostar also in Europe, does compensation, but only for people who are doing courses or full-day tutorials or something like that.
Right.
So it's for us. I think there's a lot more compensation for speakers at Let's Test than your normal conference. Well, of course, also delegates for that who are pay for the whole week too. There's no choice. Some people pay for your event, some people pay for other ones too. So the budget models constrain it a bit. I'm sure that Henrik, though, is looking to try to figure out what the balance is in terms of number of speakers and number of attendees. And there's got to be ways to get more speakers involved in it. But I'm not sure what's going to happen in the future. But this year it was pretty tight. We had so many excellent proposals. It was really amazing.
But I think I like the half day and the full day tutorial concept because I think in an hour it's quite hard to get into any kind of detail like previous years. So that half day gives you a real chance just to kind of get stuck in and meddle around with the ideas.
Yeah. We've also asked every single speaker to try to have some sort of audience engagement in their in their talks. I don't know how far this will go or how good this is going to work out, because it's going to be individualistic. But we want to see if people can try different things, experiment with things, go a little bit out of their comfort zone to try to, not just engage people, but get people to actively participate in just normal session talks. I expect that it should be no problem in the tutorials and the half-day things, but normal session talks, we're trying to get people to be engaged also, and keynotes, for example.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. They're doing interactive keynote for this one, aren't they?
It's explicitly tied out there, but even if it's not explicitly tied out, in every session, we're trying to get people to do something.
Yeah, that's because I was speaking to Henke and Johan about it, and they were saying Steve's got the biggest challenge of the opening keynote. Not the opening keynote. When's he on?
Yeah, on the 27th.
On the 27th, yeah. So
there's a keynote on the tutorial day. This is the weird thing about the Let's Test. They have a keynote on the tutorial day, and then they have a keynote on the session day. So you get 2 opening keynotes. What can I say?
That's it. We're spoiled.
Then we get a closing keynote, which is going to be fun. Tim Lister.
Tim Lister, that's amazing, isn't it?
I'm still shaking.
Hey,
I mean, this is a hero of mine, so it's just put him in the room and have him say any questions.
That's it.
That's all I want.
No, I've got to chat to Tim. Hopefully he's up for a chat as well. But yeah, I was saying to Henke, it's slightly daunting.
Well, let's see. I'm looking forward to it.
And since setting the program, what have you been up to?
For the group here, I've well, let's see. Mostly, I've been wishing I had more time to do things. I actually spent time with the individual speakers, not as many as I'd like, talking to them and coaching them, working with a few people. There's 3 or 4 people that wanted to figure out brainstorm strategies for their talk.
Oh, cool.
So I was available to do that, and I actually I have to say that I really I found that just so fun to do. But think about the hooking up with everybody. It's very, very difficult, and we're dealing with a lot of people who are also quite experienced speakers. So they just need to be sort of rolled in the right direction and reminded occasionally, hey, you're going downhill, not uphill. So the people I did spend a lot of time with: Don Haynes,
Yep.
Tim Coulter, John Bach, to name a few. but there's probably about 5 more that I talked to in person. Not too long ago, I was in Belgium at the testing conference there, Belgian Testing Days, and I met some of the people. Fiona was there. I had a nice chat with her. So some of the people have talked to me more than others, but for the most part, Lee. I spent a lot of time with Lee Hawkins. It's surprising. I actually met him in person in Melbourne,
Right.
and we jammed about this for about 90 minutes in Melbourne, Australia. We talked about that. I was there for only like 3 days on business,
Yeah.
and the one evening I had off, we got together. I got together with Lee. He's one of the speakers at this conference. He was all interested in how to present his story and all this stuff. So just getting in there and helping people figure out how to share their story. I can't talk to everybody, but I think try to make a bit of a difference that way.
I mean, that's a great opportunity for other people putting proposals in, right? Because not every conference does that.
No, very few do, and I wish we could do more of it. There's some of the people I'm looking at the list now. There's some of them I wish I just had more time to talk to, especially some who I know their story, and I have some ideas on how if you sort of present it one way or the other, you might be able to really get a lot of engagement out of it. But that again, all you can do is sort of direct. Right now, it's what it's at now is direction and maybe a couple of hints now. I got probably 2 or 3 more phone calls between now and when the event starts.
Cool.
So,
That
nice
segues quite nicely. What have you got to do before the conference in May?
Well, I gotta get my plane tickets. So. No, I'm not sure. I got to talk to Henrik, see what they want to do. I'm sure that we need to set up web resources so that delegates can share copies of any presentation materials and stuff that they have. And I'm not sure what the logistics Let's Test wants to use for that. I was involved in Let's Test before, but as a participant. So
Yeah.
I think we have to make sure that the resources are available to people in a timely manner, but that speakers are not overwhelmed with bureaucracy around resources as some conferences tend to do. There's probably going to be last-minute cancellations or changes, so we're going to have to react very quickly to stuff like that. So there's that sort of anticipation. I guess that like you're doing, trying to spread the word, make sure that whenever I'm in a position where I'm in a public space to let people know about it, which is what I have been doing for since last summer. So I think that's just continuing the idea. Committed money for conferences, I think in some of the world markets is down. So as I said before, I'm anxious to see how this event works out in that regard. But that's about it for me. Just sort of working to make sure we get the content. A couple of speakers that I want to talk to still before we get to the event. I will be in Sweden about a week in advance of it because I've got a little bit of a private gig for a couple of days, so I should be there with the guys when they're setting up for the conference.
Nice.
So that'll give me a chance to get used to the time zone and the percentage alcohol and all the different variances that change from country to country.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so I guess we need to wrap up soon as well.
Yep.
One last question.
Sure.
Why should people attend Let's Test?
Well, I think people should attend Let's Test for 3 different perspectives. I think from a professional development perspective, I think what they want to do is they want to get insights as to how real testers are solving some phenomenally complex problems. And it's not just kumbaya. I don't want you to just feel that you're not alone. I know you're not alone. And if you know about Let's Test, you know you're not alone.
Yeah.
But I want you to go and talk to these people, engage with these people, and have real insights into how you do your job differently. And I bet you this year, if you actively participate in Let's Test, you'll be able to walk back to your work and actually change a practice based on what you've learned at this conference. I think that's one thing. So that's your practice, your personal practice. 2, your network, your professional development network. I think looking at the variety of things going on will help you map out your career horizons a lot better. Now, this is not tactical. It's not the next day. But it's much broader. There's a lot of variety we're seeing, a lot of sectors, a lot of different ways to tackle testing problems, and some wonderful insights into how today people are using many of the context-driven testing communities to tackle the problems like, for example, distributed testing in agile teams.
Yeah.
And we'll see at least one nice talk on that, but a lot of different things. People talking about how tools work. Like there's all this beautiful stuff from, if you look at Alan Richardson's work, you're going to see all sorts of things about tools and technology, and not to say, hey, you have to become a superstar programmer or you're out of work, but saying, no, we can leverage these things. And if we know which one's to leverage and which one's not, we can really make a difference. So I think that there's a professional horizon part of it. And then I think there's camaraderie and friendship.
Definitely.
I think really the people there's a strong ethical tie between the community that I've known to actively participate in Let's Test. And I just think that they're good people to know. They're good people to network with. They're good people to count among your professional. I call them friends. The professional friends or colleagues. I think it's just those three dimensions. I think are reasons why you want to go to Let's Test. And you'll notice I didn't say you're going to get a sticker. I didn't say you're going to magically be 10 times more productive. I didn't say that. I think we're looking at things from a much more beautiful perspective in this conference, and hopefully those are the things. Your person, your profession, your practice. I think you'll be able to evolve all of those.
I think definitely network one has been the biggest for me. It's like, so the conference is 3 days, but I've built up a network of professional friends that I can call upon on Twitter, email, any time of the week. And it's just, I've got this problem, and I know we discussed it at the conference. Can you help me out? It's just fantastic.
I've got in my talk, if you sit in on any of it, I will be sharing some stories. One of the stories I have comes from someone whom I met through the Let's Test community, and it was a beautiful, beautiful problem. I went on site, I looked at this problem, I identified the type of math that was related. I didn't know how to solve it, but then I went to another company, other people in the context-driven community in that company, and one of them was a mathematician guru who knew how to model the problem. And he went to the math community online, who then were able to help solve it. We turned around the whole thing and came up with a beautiful and graceful problem that explained even what looked like a coincidence.
Okay.
And it had a rigorous mathematical proof. And when you look at the rigor and the math behind that, you sort of then start having confidence that you're shaking things down very thoroughly, at least from that perspective. And that was all from relationships made through the, I would say, the Let's Test / context-driven community.
That's brilliant. That's a great story.
Yeah. And I'm sure you could tell a story like that, and I'm sure dozens of people will be able to tell stories like that if they come to Let's Test.
Fantastic. So, thank you, Rob. Is there anything else you'd like to chat about?
Well, I wish I had more time, but I got to get to McGill. It's my last class of the semester. I've got 67 undergraduates that are going to be throwing rocks at me in about 2 hours. So I got to put on my armor and get ready for that. No, I don't. But if you want to run anything by me or ask me some follow-up questions after you've mulled through it, I'm sure there's a couple of things on your initial questionnaire sheet that I missed completely. As I'm trying to sidetrack you, avoiding certain discussional points, but
no, it's been fantastic, Rob. It's been really
like, for example, the fact that I personally know every single person who's speaking at this conference. That it's not intentional.
That's it. I like him. I don't like him.
That's not how we picked our speech.
I know. Fantastic. All right, Rob. Well, I'll love you and leave you, and I'll see you in Sweden.
Absolutely. Are you going to be there a little bit early?
I'm trying to get there for Sunday.
Sunday. Okay. I'll probably be there before then. So look me up when you come in, and we'll have a good time.
Definitely. Thanks for your time, Rob. Cheers. All the best.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.